Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Grant Cohn. That is Suneil Gaitonde. He goes by So Real Suneil. I like the evolution of this channel. We went from using our government names to now like aliases. We got So Real Suneil. We got Amin the Dream. Benny Got Game. I like the evolution of that. Anyway, we're gonna be talking about the draft, I guess. I don't know. That's going to be coming up in about 17 days. I think we probably should. If you don't know who Suneil is, he's the newest writer for all 49ers. Follow him on Twitter at So Real Suneil. Read his work. He's going to have an article coming out in like 90 minutes. So now that we've done the introductions, Suneil, do you think people really know what Kyle Shanahan wants at quarterback? I mean, he hasn't drafted that many.
Right. I don't think so is the easy answer, but I also think that there's this false narrative that's been kind of portrayed on Kyle Shanahan and kind of wrongfully pinning him into whatever he decided to do in 2017. So with the media, everybody was kind of the minute that it was kind of I guess assured that the 49ers were going to go quarterback in unison. Everybody was like, oh, it's going to be Mac Jones because he's most like Kirk Cousins. He's most like the quarterbacks that Shanahan has worked with in the past. But I think that that's just a false narrative and kind of intellectually lazy. And what I mean by that is they're all basing it off of what happened in 2017. And in 2017, obviously, that's the draft that Mahomes and Watson were there. And the thought process is that he passed on Mahomes and Watson because he wanted to go with Kirk Cousins, right? And I think that's just I think that's all revisionist history because if you look at what was going on in the league, it wasn't the same thing as what's going on right now in 2021. In 2015, the number one quarterback off the board was Jameis Winston. Right after him was Marcus Mariota, right? So Marcus Mariota was that first kind of mobile quarterback that was drafted high. And then by 2017, he was already looked at as a bust, being flaming out with the Titans.
That's true.
And people were like, "Oh, a mobile quarterback that is a run-first option isn't going to work in the league." Right? The year after that, it was Jared Goff and Wentz were the first two quarterbacks off the board.
And Prescott slid.
Exactly, and both of those were both known for their strong arms and pocket presence and whatnot. Even in 2017, Mahomes went 10th, Watson went 12th, Mitch Trubisky was picked higher, and they didn't even play in 2017. Mahomes didn't play all year. Watson only played like 6 games. It wasn't until 2018 when they kind of blew up, and in 2018, still Baker Mayfield was drafted before like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. It wasn't until really 2019 when Kyler Murray was the first pick over Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins, where now the league had evolved towards like a dual threat quarterback actually being somebody that could lead your team. So 2017,
somebody you'd want in the draft as opposed to someone that you would knock.
True.
Yeah.
True. And I think that everybody pins Shanahan like he was the only person on this island that was like no to Mahomes, when the actual opposite was true, where Andy Reid kind of was ahead of the curve, drafted up for Mahomes, seeing that is going to be the future of the league. And Andy Reid is a genius too. Like, it's not like Andy Reid isn't unique in his own way for seeing that and being like the quarterback whisperer there. So to go now in 2021 and seeing everything that he's seen, where Mahomes basically snatched the Super Bowl out of the hands of Kyle Shanahan with his unique play and all that kind of stuff, and then having to deal with Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson every single year, 4 times a year, and seeing what they're doing with their mobility, to act like he's still like, no, it's a pocket passer that we need. I think that's just, I mean, I got some snake oil to sell if people still think that he's just like, yo, we need Mac Jones because that's the quarterback we're going to win. I just don't believe it.
Well, I think you're absolutely right when you say that, like, how can you say where's the evidence? How much evidence do you really have to point to say this is the kind of quarterback Kyle Shanahan would draft if he traded 3 first-round picks for a top 3 selection? He's never done it before. It's hard to say. He has said that, you just want an elite quarterback, and they come in all different, shapes and sizes and play all different styles. And the important thing is that you have one, and he doesn't have one.
Right.
So, but then where I feel like the skepticism comes in, and I share the skepticism. He'll say something like, he said it 2 weeks ago, like, I mean, of course, everyone's looking for Patrick Mahomes. Like, dude, you passed on Patrick Mahomes. So there was something about you 4 years ago that you were like, you know what, that's just not my kind of guy. Now, maybe you've changed, or maybe there were mitigating circumstances, but there's something about Kyle that I feel like his ego couldn't handle Patrick Mahomes or someone who is so good, like, and they get all the credit. You know,
Okay.
Patrick, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I
But it's
think
just,
I disagree because
that's just speculation.
who's Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes? Like
What do you mean?
who is the person that we could
Oh,
say Patrick Mahomes is like this player?
Aaron Rodgers.
Kind of, but Aaron Rodgers is really good, and he is a lot of what Patrick Mahomes is. But as far as like, and Aaron Rodgers dropped to end of the first round too, so it's not like it wasn't. It's not like the NFL brain trust was all on board with an Aaron Rodgers with a Patrick Mahomes, and
Right.
like that was the prototypical quarterback. I mean, there was 9 other teams that passed on Patrick Mahomes, and all 9 of those teams, I bet quarterback isn't better than Patrick Mahomes. So to say that like Kyle Shanahan was the main person that passed on Patrick Mahomes. Nobody knew that Patrick Mahomes was going to be as good as he was. He wasn't ever talked about as like the top quarterback in that draft. There wasn't all these pieces done on him during that draft, you know? And so like, it's all, we're looking back being like, how did you miss on that? Or you could have had that, but that happens all the time. Right. So I just think that it's unfair to be like, it's because Shanahan has a thing against a type against Patrick Mahomes. I think there wasn't a Patrick Mahomes. Now all the quarterbacks are coming out replicating the same skill set that a Patrick Mahomes has. Maybe not to the extent of Patrick Mahomes, obviously, because he's one of one. But I think now, and I think both of us were on the same page as far as we didn't think that he was even going to go for a rookie quarterback. We really think he was going after Deshaun Watson. So to go after Deshaun Watson and then settle for Mac Jones, to me, is like two opposites of extreme as far as what type of quarterbacks that you're looking for.
So before we move on to the next question, which quarterback do you think they are targeting?
I think it's between Fields and Lance, and I think he's probably leaning Fields just because Fields is probably ready to start day one, and I think that he wants to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Lance is more of like the Lynch pick because I think Lynch is okay with having Garoppolo there for another year, but I think Shanahan's ready to start, and it's either going to be, assuming that Wilson's pick 2 is going to be Justin Fields. I think.
What if Fields is pick 2? Real quick.
I think he'll go Wilson.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Next question. Is Kyle Pitts a realistic option at number 3? Before we answer the question, there's been some new evidence that has been brought to the courtroom. I want to present it to the judge as Exhibit A. This was 2018. He was asked about finding elite wide receivers. This was the combine. And this is a direct quote from Kyle Shanahan, February 2018. He says, there aren't that many elite guys. If there's a Julio available and you have the opportunity to get him, you go get him. It's worth it. Whatever the price is, whatever the draft pick is, go get him. There aren't too many Julios on the planet. So that's an interesting thing. I mean, for him to say it so explicitly, and then you remember that the Falcons traded 2 first rounders, a second, and 2 fourths for Julio Jones, who is the best player in their franchise history. The Niners traded more for that number. They traded more, but it's comparable. And I think a lot of people would say that this player Pitts is the best prospect who's a pass catcher, wide receiver, tight end since Julio.
Gotcha.
I mean, he's bigger than Julio and just as fast. So given the new evidence that I brought to this discussion, do you think it's something that's actually crossed through Kyle Shanahan's mind?
I think, first of all, if this Sports Illustrated writer thing doesn't work out for you, definitely fall back on your law and research skills is definitely there for you, because that's a good quote. And the problem is that's something you can say when you have Matt Ryan at quarterback.
True.
Right? So when you having Matt Ryan at quarterback makes it easier to be like, I could go up and pick the best receiver that's coming, a generational talent like that. Kyle Pitts as a pick for the Niners, I don't think is realistic because he is dependent on who's throwing him the ball. And so if there's not somebody there that is going to be there to put the ball in his hands, then it's a waste of a weapon. So I think because of the 49ers are so bleak at quarterback right now, because, the health issues of Jimmy G and just like all that. I'm not saying because of the draft capital that they put in. I'm just saying more that they don't have a quarterback to throw to this guy right now. So Pitts is a luxury that you just can't, will be wasted on the 49ers versus going after one of those quarterbacks.
I hear you. And I think that's ultimately why the Niners won't draft Kyle Pitts. But here's just what I want to say to you and to Kyle Shanahan, who's watching very closely, and everyone in the Niners front office. Thank you for watching and tuning in. Kyle Pitts is going to be a Hall of Famer, all right? And he's going to be one of the best players from this draft, if not the best. And you have your reasons to not pick him. But if you don't, you're going to be passing on a Hall of Famer. And what you could do is you could take Jimmy Garoppolo, Josh Rosen, quarterback you take in round 2, and put him with the best receivers in the league. And it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo isn't durable enough, but when he's healthy, he's been pretty good. And now you give him Kyle Pitts. Or, look at Kyle Trask, how good he was with Kyle Pitts. You could get him. You could get Kellen Mond. You could bring back Josh Rosen. There are a lot of quarterbacks who have talent who all of a sudden would look way better throwing to Kyle Pitts. That's my last argument here. And then
but then you could also say the same thing. Calvin Johnson had Matt Stafford in Detroit, and how much did that help that franchise, right? Calvin Johnson is one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, maybe even better than Julio Jones when you talk about Megatron. And he had a really good quarterback that was thrown to him. And how many playoff games did that turn into? How many Super Bowls did that turn into? It turned into nothing. So it doesn't really matter if you have that talent without the right pieces around them, without being utilized in the right way. It's not going to turn into it.
It's true. Now, what's interesting is 12 months ago, if someone had told us Niners are going to have the number 3, they're going to trade up for number 3, and they're going to have the opportunity to take the next Julio Jones, and they're not going to take him because they're going to take a quarterback. That would sound crazy. It's like, wait a second, hold on. They're giving up on Jimmy already. He just went to the Super Bowl. But a lot happens in a year, and it seems like a lot happens in a year. And if Jimmy Garoppolo could just stay healthy, maybe they wouldn't have made the trade up. I just think it's interesting. The Niners always surprise people.
That's true.
This is the surprise they have. I would be so impressed. I would be so impressed. Mark says, who was the player the Niners thought they could get trying to swing a trade with Philly at 6? I don't know if I buy this report. Suneil, explain this to me. They say the Niners tried Philly and Philly wasn't interested. So they keep moving up and end up getting the 3rd pick. After they get the 3rd pick, Miami goes back to 12. What does Miami do? What does Miami do? They go up to 6. Right. So how could the Niners not get to 6, but Miami did? And Miami didn't even give up that much.
So a previous article talked about, and this was around the same time that they made the pick, that the Eagles really liked Mac Jones. And they were thinking about picking Mac Jones, and they were trying to move up with Miami to number 3 to get Mac Jones. This was like an article that was out. I don't know if you remember reading that, but so I think that
this is making
the Eagles.
So they felt like they got aced out. They felt like if the Niners got to 3, then whoever they wanted at 6 was no longer going to be there, so might as well trade back. But as long as the Niners were back at 12, okay, I can see that.
Exactly. They were. I think the Eagles and the Niners were both trying to get to 3 with and so that's why it happened.
The Eagles wouldn't do business with the Niners, but once the Niners aced them out, then the Eagles were down to do business with the Dolphins.
Exactly.
Okay. I can see that.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
But I don't think that. So
you think it was Mac Jones though? You think it was Mac Jones, the player
for Eagles? But I don't think that's for. So I think that people are kind of don't let all the pieces. Don't think about all the pieces. So the Niners wanted to move up to 6 because they probably thought Miami isn't going to get a quarterback, and that Atlanta maybe was going to get a quarterback, maybe not. Mm-hmm. So and then at 5, Cincinnati's not picking a quarterback. So 6, you're still probably getting one of the top 3 or top 4 quarterbacks at 6, based off of who was picking ahead of them.
Good point.
But when the Eagles obviously weren't playing ball, Then they moved up to Miami. So it's like, oh, they moved up to 3, like, because, it's not, no, it's just that's all they could do. 5 wasn't in play, 4 wasn't in play. So it's either 6 and 3. 6 wasn't in play. So they moved to 3. So I don't think you could really take into consideration or like infer what player they're going after based off of the situation. That was just all that was available to them.
Eric Dane says 49ers first round picks in 2022 and 2023 have less value for them because first round is usually quarterback, left tackle, D end. They're drafting a quarterback and they have Trent Bosa. Here's my problem with that, Eric. The Niners are basically banking that their injury issues are a thing of the past, that they're not going to have one of these seasons where the whole team gets hurt and they pick top 10, because that happens every other year for them. And if that happens next year or the year after, they're going to really regret not having one of those first round picks, especially if the guy they take isn't super great. So that's all I'm saying. You could say that they're set at those key positions, but they have injury issues and depth issues. And if those persist, those are going to be high picks. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they also have trade assets to get back in the first round, I think.
Warner, Bosa, Kittle, no doubt.
Right. So if they don't,
maybe Debo, Ayuk, yeah.
So I think like a Debo, I think that, a Bosa, like these type of positions, they know they have that. And also I think that the 2 draft picks that they gave up is basically the timeline that Shanahan and Lynch have to figure it out. So I think that plays out to the end of their contract. So it's like, it's kind of like they probably talked to York and was like, this is the move we want to make. And York was like, fine, but I'm not, it's going to go to your extension. That's the only picks you have to give up because it's your regime. If it doesn't work out, I think a new regime comes in with that first round pick in 2024.
That's a good way to say that. So repeat. That's so. Hey, you want to trade your picks? Go ahead. They're yours.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work out, someone else is going to clean up your mess in 2024.
So in 2024, it's kind of set up for whoever's the new coach to come in with a first round pick. I think that was the pitch that Shanahan put and Lynch said is like, let us have our guy. We'll give up our 2 picks for the rest of our contract. But this is the guy we will live or die with the pick that we're about to make. And that's probably why York signed off on it.
Smart. What the 49ers should do with their second round pick, in your opinion, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to just put it out there because every single chance I get, I want to put it out in the atmosphere that Najee Harris somehow becomes a 49er as well, because I love that guy. And I think the way you feel about Kyle Pitts, I feel about Najee Harris.
That's fair.
To be a game changer as far as change whichever team he goes to, that running game is going to automatically take levels up. But he's not going to be there at 43. So there's a couple of people that I think Javonte Williams out of North Carolina is a running back that could fit. I don't think he's one of those bruiser running backs. He's kind of short. He's 5'10", but he's 220, so he's around the same weight as Wilson Jr. Good blocker, not as fast, but he hasn't taken a lot of bumps in college because he was sharing the backfield with another running back that should be drafted pretty high. So he already knows how to be in a rotation, so he might be there. Another guy that I really like is Javon Holland out of Oregon. So he's a safety.
Here's my high school.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, it was my high school. There's no doubt, baby. So did Elijah Vera Tucker. How you like that?
That's awesome. Yeah, he's a Bay Area guy. He reminds me a lot of Jimmy Ward because he could play safety, but he could also move into the slot. And I think that is gonna, and he can, play corner as well. He played both in college. I think that he has that it factor. I know when you talk about cornerbacks, Grant, you always talk about the confidence factor. This kid had it when he was like 6, 7, 8 years old. He was doing interviews talking about how like he was the greatest and all this kind of stuff. I think that his versatility and as a DB, as a safety, and the style of play that he plays, people talk about him being the next Buda Baker. I think that he could be a really good fit in as a second round pick. People might say we reach for him at 43, but I think he'd be a great asset to the defense if he was there and they go ahead and select him.
I'm gonna say something else. I think they're gonna go with a wide receiver. I mean, they lost Kendrick Bourne. That's about 700 snaps. He's like a de facto starter. He's their number 3 guy, and that player plays more than Kyle Juszczyk. And you look at Debo, like you can't count on him to play a full season. If he does, great. Brandon Ayuk also missed 4 games. I think they need a wide receiver. They love drafting wide receivers. They could
Right.
stand pat at 43. They could trade up again like they did last year. It worked out so well and get someone like Kadarius Toney. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
It's a possibility. I mean, especially if they get a young quarterback. I just find it. I just think that their run game is way weaker than their pass game, and
Yes.
to keep like putting in assets in their pass game,
Yeah.
without fixing that run game, I think is I don't know. I just feel like you could spend your resources better. And one thing that I think Shanahan's good at is picking receivers. You know, I think that he has a certain type. He does pretty well at drafting receivers. So
only thing I would say is I think it's tougher to find a good receiver outside the top 100 than a good running back. That's the only thing. Like you can find great wide receivers at 43, great ones, and you can also find great running backs at 43. At 100, those receivers usually are gone. Sometimes they're there though. That's it though.
But do they need another star receiver that's going to be?
Or do they just need like a slot guy they could get on day 3? That's true. That's true.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, what do you think they should do with their 3rd round pick?
So it depends on what they do with their 2nd round. I think in those 3 rounds they have to get a DB, either a safety or a corner. So 2nd or 3rd, depending on what they do with the 2nd. And then I think running back, just because people are sleeping on how bad that running game was last season. Like it dropped to 15th in the league. Mostert and Wilson can't stay healthy. If that's our same running back tandem going into this year, you know what we believe that everywhere else there could be injury issues, but not in the running back room. Like it doesn't make any sense. They're getting hit all the time as well. So I think they need to add a running back. I see a lot of like 49er fans saying, well, they could do it with non-drafted running backs and all that kind of stuff. But all the non-drafted running backs haven't been like bell cows that can be handed off the ball 20, 25 times a game. There are these guys that are super fast or one-dimensional running backs that there's a reason why they didn't get drafted. You know what I mean? They're really good at they're former track stars, all these kind of things, which Kyle Shanahan can, make them look great, but that doesn't mean that they're the person that you could depend on, as your starting running back, pass protection, all those types of things, which is really important for Shanahan to have in a running back. Like we really missed Tevin Coleman from 2019 last year, So
I'm going to go, I feel like with one of their first 3 picks, the Niners should go with an offensive lineman. They could go DB2. They have no depth and no future at DB, but they also could wait a year, I guess. And the starters they have in their secondary played well last year. I don't believe in the Niners offensive line. It's the same offensive line as last year plus a 36-year-old. And the 36-year-old had a great career, but we don't know what his future is. And the rest of the offensive line is exactly the same. So I like to see the Niners just hedge their bets there a little bit more and bring in some more guys and not someone like Colton McKivitz in round 5, who's nothing. Someone a little bit better than that.
I agree with that. I think offensive line is definitely there. There's a lot of good tackles, a lot of good, guards and centers that will be available in the 2nd round as well. I think it's just about who's the best available kind of player at the position of need that they have. So, and I think they're in a good position where they're going to be drafting not for need, but for depth. So that's a good position to be in the 2nd and 3rd rounds.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Next season, for the Niners to be a real Super Bowl contender, which player needs to step up most?
I think it's going to be George Kittle. He got paid like he is the leader and captain of the team, best player on the team. 49ers gave him what he felt like he deserved plus more, and he has to be able to stay healthy and he has to be able to produce, right? So, he is integral to the running game. I think one of the reasons why the running game was so bad last season is because he wasn't healthy. And he's integral in the passing game as well. The tight end is always going to be the safety net for any quarterback. And so if he's not there, he needs to be able to, 1, prove that he's healthy, and 2, prove that he could perform, every single game, because, he's listed as one of the top tight ends only by reputation at this point. It's not because of what his production is, because his production hasn't shown that all last season. And he really, he's really hasn't put together healthy seasons and great seasons other than maybe two seasons max. So I think he needs to step up, and otherwise, like you said, maybe he's a draft. He's somebody that could be traded for a first round pick the next season or next 2 seasons, something like that.
He needs to start scoring. 14
Right.
touchdowns in 4 seasons. He needs to start scoring. They need to start giving him the ball in the end zone, or at least trying to. There's so many guys you can name. I mean, McGlinchey, Armstead, Debo, freaking Debo is a big one. Mostert. Where was Mostert last year? Nick Bosa? But honestly, I think the way I look at this team is all those guys need to step up. It's the same team as last year, plus Samson Ebukam, minus Kendrick Bourne. It's the same team. So for this team to really make a run in a way that one couldn't, it's got to be this number 3 pick. And that's why I keep saying that, or I keep thinking that they can't take Trey Lance, as appealing and intriguing as he is, because they can't put their number 3 pick on the sit for a year plan. That guy's got to be a difference maker because the rest of the team is the same.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree. And I think that, everybody's really hoping that the injury bug doesn't hit the Niners again, because, clearly the injuries played a big role in why we didn't make the playoffs this season. But I also think that the 49ers have a lot of heart, and they were in every single game. And it's just like,
True.
I think it's not as far. They're not as far off from being in the playoffs and contending in the playoffs than their record showed and that their draft pick shows. So I think that that the ball bounces a couple other ways this season for the Niners. They're in the playoffs, and we're talking a different way about them.
Killer Cam says, I love that name, man. That's a good song. Killer Cam says, history doesn't lie. How many top 3 quarterback draft picks work out? Draft Pitts at 3, Mond or Trask later rounds, emergency meeting with Kyle and John. Yeah, not only that, like if Mond or Trask aren't there at 23, there's Davis Mills in round 4. There's options. Here's the thing. Let me just throw this at you. When he says history doesn't lie, it's an interesting point. I've been looking. Think about it. Top 5 picks the past 10 years. Which ones have definitely worked out, in your opinion?
Top
5.
Man. Top 5 picks.
At quarterback.
Put me on the spot. I have to do some.
I know it's tough, but think about it. I mean, a lot of busts, a lot of miss. There was Darnold, Kyler Murray. He's looking good so far.
Right. So I mean, it depends on
okay.
what you consider bust, right? So if you
not a bust, but like even Andrew Luck, great player. He didn't make it till he was 30. Like Cam Newton, great player, but not exactly what they thought when they were taking him number 1. I mean, maybe Matt Ryan still playing. Number 3 pick, 2007. Right. A lot of these guys, you think, man, this is a 15-year franchise quarterback. Well, it's not that simple, man. It's not that easy.
But you can say that about any player at any.
No question. But the thing about Kyle Pitts is people are talking about him like he's Bo Jackson tight end. He's tight end version Bo Jackson. He's Julio Jones 2.0. And if your scouts say that, I'm just saying from the Niners' perspective, all the scouts are saying, look, we don't need a tight end, but this guy, we've never graded someone this high. No, I mean, it's just amazing. This guy's a freak. There's like no one like him in the world. That's if you have that kind of a grade on him, and say there's a number system in your organization, and he's a 98 out of 100, and all the quarterbacks that you could take are like 91s. What do you do?
91 at quarterback, because a 91 at quarterback is much more impactful than a 98. Because even using the example of Julio Jones has been on the Falcons, and what have the Falcons done that's so much better than what the Niners have done in the last however many years?
That's a good point.
So like I said, Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, these are amazing players, but they're not gonna change the trajectory of your team that much. You know what I mean? It's gonna be based off of the scheme, based off of who's throwing them the ball, based off of the defense, all that kind of stuff. Julio Jones, to me, is hands down one of the greatest receivers of all time. He's only been to the Super Bowl once. 49ers have already done that, been to the Super Bowl once and lost. So it's like, what's really that much going to change? That Pitts is there that is going to take us to the next level. I don't know. I don't think Pitts does that.
Only thing I think the kicker in this conversation is, okay, so if let's say Pitts theoretically is a 98, the quarterbacks you have on the board are 91, then you would ask your scouting department, okay, honestly, what did you grade Josh Rosen at coming out? What was your grade for? Not now, But coming out of UCLA, what was his grade? Because if
Right.
his grade was a 91 or a 92 and you liked him back then, and he's had a tough time in the NFL, that's all I'm saying. It's like, do you like Josh?
Yeah, but that also, you're also lost 4 years of development under the system, right? So like there's a difference between Josh Rosen getting picked and whomever was the coach of the Cardinals or the coaching staff with the Cardinals there versus Kyle Shanahan, who probably has a confidence like, yeah, I thought Josh Rosen was a 91, but he might be broken now. He's already gone to 3 different teams, been through, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's not apples to apples, the comparison. True. It's more like if we had Josh Rosen at 91 and we drafted him, we probably think he's in a better situation than how he was drafted in Arizona and moved to Miami and then went to Tampa, that kind of thing. So I think Kyle Shanahan has more faith in his ability to make a quarterback good than anybody else.
Also, I guess the final kicker question would be for the scouting department is, okay, well, what are your grades for Mond and Trask in round 2? Like, how big is the gap? What are we talking? Like, if you say Mond is a 89, like, what is that big of a difference? That would be the only thing. And that's like 8 different.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
If you had, as rookies right now, the choice between Matt Ryan and Julio Jones on this 49ers squad, who are you taking?
Man, that's a tough one.
At 3, both of those players are available. Are you taking Julio Jones or are you taking Matt Ryan?
Man, that's a really good question, man. Put me on the spot.
You know the answer. It just messes up your argument, so that's why you're not saying it.
I guess I see what you're saying, but again, who was the last quarterback taken in the top 5 who's had the type of longevity and consistency that Matt Ryan's had?
Who's the last player? Who's the last player in general that's been picked in the top 5 that's had that success?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. You got me on that one.
It's like sometimes when people talk about quarterbacks, there's obviously always this higher magnifying glass put on it, but it's a crapshoot no matter what. It very, very few times is there like a can't miss option that is there. And it doesn't, the 49ers don't need to hit a home run. They need just need a consistent guy that could get on base or get a double every now and then. That's all they need, because right now they have some people that can't even get on base. That's all that's needed. And that's why people are, I think we also need to put into perspective.
Let Kyle Pitts be the DH then.
Hey, if Kyle Pitts could throw the ball
to himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is the better passer between Fields and Lance, in your opinion? I think Kyle and John are actually split on those two, and accuracy would be the deal breaker.
So that's a really good question, because I think with Lance, you're projecting. With Fields, it's kind of like you kind of feel like you know what you're getting with Fields. I think right now you got to go with Fields. I mean, Fields has a higher completion rating. Fields has played in bigger games. Fields has shown his toughness. Fields has, shown the ability to take his team and win big games. So I would go with Fields just because of the resume as far as what he's done. I wouldn't be upset if they took Lance either. I just think that Fields is ready to play right now, and both of us think that they need to start with somebody that could play right now. And I like Fields' intangibles. I don't know too much about Lance's intangibles, but I know Fields is a leader. I know Fields is super tough. I know Fields has been under the microscope ever since he's been 17. There's been no issues, no run-ins with the law, nothing that is a red flag as far as that. And he's been the consensus top 2 quarterback ever since went to college. So to me, that's just nobody's a can't miss, but you're going to get a lot with a player like that. I think his ceiling is much higher than anybody else, I would say.
That's why I think the Jets take him. All those things you said about scrutiny he's been under for so long, Justin Fields. That's the kind of guy who a New York team would feel is prepared for what he's going to face there. I think the kid from Utah.
Yeah, no, I think Lance or Fields, the same conversation that 49ers are having, the Jets have to be having, because Wilson is pretty much like Darnold. We talked about it, last week. Wilson and Darnold are the same type of everything people are saying about Wilson, they were saying about Darnold.
Yeah.
But the issue is, no matter who that quarterback is, the Jets still have a lot of pieces they need before they're going to be a good team. And yeah, they have the draft, but I don't know. I think that Fields will give them a better chance to win right now than Wilson. However, I think Wilson with the Niners will be good because we have the right team around him if he goes to the Niners.
All right, last question for you. At what point will Kyle Shanahan be on the hot seat? What does he have to do? Or does he have a lifetime contract with the 49ers?
No, I think we kind of laid it out earlier. I think the way that they set up this pick as far as what they traded to get up is the timeline. So they gave up the 2022 first rounder, the 2023 first rounder. So he has until the end of the 2023 season to prove himself. If we're still a team that's not making the playoffs or not competing, not contending in 2024, there'll be a new regime that goes ahead and, takes that first round pick after the 2 years of not having a first round pick.
So hold on. What you're telling me is that the Niners, Kyle could lose this year. He could go 7-10. He could lose next year. He could go 8-9. Keep his job. Come back for 2023 and see if he could get winning season number 2 out of 7. You think you could do that?
Yeah.
Man, I love this guy, man. I want that kind of job security. I love Kyle Shanahan.
The reason for it also is because bringing in so think about it. At that point, the rookie quarterback will be in year 3 of the deal, right? So he'll only have 2 more years on his contract. Like bringing in a new regime under the circumstances, if they fire Kyle in the next 2 seasons, is just really it's really a bad situation for whatever the new regime is, right? They don't have their own. It's all the problems that you see with all the other badly run teams. They don't have their quarterback that they want. They don't have any first round picks. Like, how do you really judge the new regime as well, right? You got to give them a good chance, whoever's coming in, to be able to pick their own quarterback, to be able to have their own first round picks, to be able to really bring in their own regime. I think that it's just set up that way.
Well, if this guy's under no pressure to win until 2023, then freaking draft Trey Lance then. Just do it, whatever.
Well, I don't know if it's under no pressure. I'm just saying that he still has to prove. I don't think he's out here just being like, oh, I don't have, I could just do whatever I want and lose. I don't think he likes to lose. He's a competitor.
Yeah.
I'm just
saying you want to win, but I mean, if you take a quarterback like Trey Lance, what you're saying is, if we win, that's great, but that's not necessarily the most important thing. We are planning for 2023. That is the most important.
So what would you say are the things that you've seen Kyle Shanahan do that make you think that he isn't the right guy for the job?
I mean, look, my suspicion with Kyle is that he's not a leader, not a decision maker. Great with the details. He's an attention to detail guy, but when it comes to actually making the big picture decision that's best for the organization, or best for the game, he's not good at it. But I mean, he's got time to prove himself. He's still young, but I feel like decision making, those are intrinsic traits that a young man, you basically are a good or a bad decision maker at 24.
So why do you feel like he's not a good decision maker?
I mean, look at his track record. Drafting Solomon Thomas, drafting CJ Beathard, trading him for Joe. I mean, there's so many bad decisions he's made. And then also the way he's lost the 2 Super Bowls. I'm not writing him off. He's clearly extremely talented, one of the smartest coaches in the league. I think everyone steals their ideas from him in terms of play design. But, let's see what he does with this number 3 pick. I mean, just trading up alone, all those picks for number 3 is a little baffling to me. I mean, if they had gotten Watson, I would understand.
Well, here's my sorry, there's something that came up on me. Here's my pushback. So when you say, because I've heard, I've been a big fan of yours for a while, but I've heard you say that Kyle Shanahan is a bad leader and all these kinds of things. And
I question it. I wonder.
Okay, well, I look at this one, the coaching staff. Right, the coaching staff is developed by the head coach. Who you look at the coaching staff and who they've developed and all that kind of stuff.
A+. He does a great job with that.
To the point that they've gotten good draft picks because of coaches that they developed that have gone on to be coaches elsewhere and so on.
Gotta give him credit for that. Gotta give him credit for that.
Number two, the players, the culture that we had. Think about the culture we had pre-Shanahan and the culture we have post-Shanahan, as far as the family environment that the team has created and all that kind of stuff. And then this offseason, all these players had the choice to go to Salah, who supposedly was like the leader of men, and that's the leader and all this kind of stuff. To a T, everybody that the 49ers wanted to bring back, they brought back. Nobody left them that they wanted to, that they didn't want, so, or that they wanted. Nobody went to the Jets. So
here's all I'll say. He's got a lot of great qualities. I have some concerns and questions, but all he needs to do is find a way to consistently win at this point. No more excuses. He's had these throwaway seasons, 3 of them, fine. Sean McVay, who is not, I don't think he's as bright as Kyle Shanahan, finds ways to win no matter what. And I think Kyle Shanahan it's time. That's the expectation. That's the expectation now. All right. You've had your injury seasons. You had your seasons with Brian Hoyer. Okay. Year 5, you just made your big move. You're getting your quarterback. Enough, man. Win. That's all I'm saying. And if he can do that, then I can't knock him. I can't knock him.
True. Yep. True. But he's had the same success as far as peak that McVay's had as well in the same amount of time. So
no question. The only difference is that McVay's had this base level of consistency, but what has that gotten him in the playoffs? Nothing. So
he's also had a base level of healthy quarterbacks too.
True.
So that's the biggest difference. So,
yeah, but I don't want to hear that excuse in year 5, Kyle. Let's do it. Come on, man.
True.
Come on, man.
True.
Suneil, hell of a show, hell of a polo. I think next time we should both wear matching Ralph Lauren gear. So
let's do it, man.
We'll talk about it. All right, man. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Suneil. I'm done for the day. Have a great night, and I'll be back tomorrow.